Council meeting of August 27th, 2012 to order at 7:01 p.m. Everyone please rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk call roll, please. Stewart.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Conan.
Here.
Bullock. Here. Ballard.
Here.
Cooper. Here. Audie.
Here.
Everyone has the agenda in front of them tonight. Are there any additions, deletions, or is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, I wish to drop under item 3, new business, heading B,
Okay, the repair replacement to village sidewalks. Everyone
Correct.
please mark that off.
and please put that on upcoming agenda items A.
Okay.
I also need you to pull the Morrison Street update. It will need some discussion and resolution.
Pull it from tonight's agenda.
No, pull it and put it into, I'll take your slot on B.
Oh. Okay, are there any other additions, deletions, or is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, I'll so move to accept the agenda as amended.
Motion by Mr. Ballard, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Clark, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Any citizen comment on non-agenda items? Yes.
You have a new policy for special events, and the policy clearly states on the form that it'll be on the next meeting, and we filled out all the application, provided all the information, and we are not on the agenda. I don't understand why.
Our agendas are finalized and put together on Wednesdays at noon. That's the cutoff to put things on the agenda. Your application came in on Thursday. Chief still had not had time to review it yet, so we don't even have it back in our office yet, because after Chief, it goes to the DPW, and then after that, it comes back to us, and then it goes on our agenda.
You may want to change the language on the application then, because it clearly states it will be on the next agenda.
Okay, and for anyone who doesn't know, may have our agenda cut off the Wednesday before the meeting at noon. For those that aren't familiar with it, that is our cutoff to have things on our regular agenda. Thank you.
And there have been other groups that have also applied and put them in a short amount of time, and they still made it to the agenda and were approved.
And those were because those were emergent, they were taking place very shortly after we received them. There was not time to get them on the next meeting. It was taking place before our next meeting. That's the reason why. But thank you. Are there any other citizen comment on non-agenda items? Any citizen comment? Hearing none. We have no presentations tonight. Administrative reports. The FMV report, would you like to start, Mr. Stewart?
In front of you, you have your report. Chuck, go right ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you start, because then I just covered what you forget. Or what you missed.
What I missed? We really had no significant occurrences. As far as the fair preliminary, they had some elevated parameters, but as far as a plant being in violation or anything, we were not in violation. We did fairly well from what we can tell right now. Be a couple more weeks before some of the tests come back from the outside lab we use.
Chuck will generate the invoice that is sent to the fair, so we'll make sure we do that. We've already discussed that. If you look on page 1, the flows are way low for the month of July. And they were also low for June. It happened about mid-June. The flows just dropped right off. I did inform Scott and maybe Steve. Obviously, they're preparing the S2 grant, and if there's any way of figuring out why it went down, that's great. If not, I don't know what else we can do. I thought maybe it was because, or we thought it was because of the schools. They're on summer break. I know they're tied in, but these are significant decreases, so I don't know if anything new was done or not. We're not aware of anything. I also, real quickly, wanted to tell council we do have an invoice that came from Kennedy. They were supposed to repair 10 the Zurich valves with labor. They were only able to repair 1. The other 9, they have to, the way the plant was designed is too close to the ceiling, and you can't segregate the one batch reactor versus the other 2. So it became a bigger problem. They're still looking into it. Kennedy is the loan distributor up to Zurich. They're trying to figure out what is other options. They're in conversation with Chuck, but this might be something we wait for the S2 grant to identify and handle under that review. I think it might be a little bit much for now. There's nothing wrong with the leak. It's been leaking for some time. There's no problems with the plant. It's just a little bit of water on the floor. It's way better than it was when we fixed the pump. So I just want council to be aware that I am approving the invoice. It's 9 units shy, but we will be paying it because they did do the work. Other than that was it. Some of the alarm call-outs real quickly were related to this to Zurich. When they replaced the 1 unit, it was tripping something. Something was shut, and they didn't realize it in time. So now everything's back. So when you see a couple alarm call-outs, it was attributable to that. It wasn't a
Yeah,
problem.
I think there was 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. That's all I
But
got.
we're okay now.
We're
These
okay.
valves operate with electricity or with air?
They're air operated.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you,
Any
Chuck.
questions for Chuck? All right, thank you so much. Next, we have the treasurer's report and the master plan and any liaison reports. Touching real quick on the master plan, I did have a couple changes. Mike, I did give those to Becky.
Oh, okay.
A couple typos and things like that and discrepancies where something was different in one paragraph than another paragraph. So
Okay.
I gave copies of those to Becky already.
Okay.
Does anyone have any changes to the master plan that they had?
I question, I think I questioned you, I know I questioned Ben, that one of the parks isn't even mentioned. That Dorothy Moss Park over in the new sub, I don't know if it's still the new sub, but the newest sub.
The old new stuff?
The old new sub isn't even
Yeah.
referenced. We talk, it talks about Memorial Park,
Mhm.
but it doesn't even address
That
that
might
park.
have to come from the park master plan, because there is another plan out there, correct?
Okay.
You know what, we'll look into it, I'll make a note.
There's a couple of typos that I have also that I'm
Typos.
halfway through, but I'm not fully through yet.
Okay, well, I appreciate you looking, and if anybody else has anything, remember, we're on a time crunch. We're still within the 63 days, but you have time to look through it real quickly.
It's not a real quick process, so I
Oh,
suggest if
it's
you're gonna look for it,
good
give yourself
reading
some time, get some.
Good reading material.
Yeah, it is.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
other comments about the master plan? Okay, hearing none?
Ben?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
The only thing I would do is ask all the council members to read it. Don't wait till the last minute, because once it comes in, we had, when we sent it out, we had 63 days for replies. So we've already chewed up 30 of those days. So I don't want to wait till the 63rd day and then have council say, well, we don't like this, or we don't like this, or we'd like to change this. So if we could do that beforehand, then we could move forward to pass it in an expedient manner. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any liaison reports at this time?
I'm just gonna quickly touch on our sidewalk. Andy and I have been walking and looking and adding and taking out sidewalks. We're still at a good amount of linear feet in the DDA district. We had some clarification through CDBG on a few things, so I think we're on track now. And as far as I know, have you sent out the bid packets yet?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I was just waiting to hear back about the one street,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, so I think those are probably ready to go this week, so hopefully we'll be approving a bid shortly.
I've got one question.
Yep.
The sidewalk in front of Vors, the bookstore, window wells,
Yeah.
has CBG, are they gonna take
Yeah,
care of?
I'll let you
Are they
take
gonna add?
The window wells we won't be touching, just
Okay.
because that'll implicate a whole nother process with CDBG, which will drag it out a lot longer, so we're gonna go around them and leave them in place for now.
Okay.
And that can be under a separate project in the future.
Have you contacted Mr. Ford? Just so he's in the loop, so he's not surprised that we're not
I've
doing it
been,
right now, that's all.
yeah, I've been talking to his wife. I haven't talked to him directly yet, but now that we know, when I talked to her last, we weren't sure. This has all been happening in the last week, really, where we've gotten the answers from.
I know the question was gonna be asked of them.
Yes,
so.
no, and I know that they were part of the original discussion, but I'm certainly
Right.
not gonna leave them out. We just,
Okay.
everything's just been
Okay, I just wanted to
coming
make sure
together.
they're included, that's all.
Yeah.
With that being said, is it worth it to do the fix before the sidewalks are done?
There isn't really anything wrong with that.
I mean, I don't know
What
exactly
I think what
what
Mr.
you're
Moore is looking for, and I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, you might know better than I, but I think he wants to put new grates on, because the window well is still there. All of the other businesses downtown over the course of the years doing sidewalk projects, we filled them in. He had asked if we could,
The property owners.
property owners fill them in.
Yeah, I know there were a couple of instances where there were basement windows
Yeah.
and they blocked up
Right.
inside.
Yes,
Right.
well, and
their building.
that's what the bookstore has, I mean, well, it's
Right.
their property, but,
Right.
they, it lets good light in down there, and I think it actually helps the business owner that works there to keep them in. I think his question just was, is it a problem to keep them in, because he'd like to put new grates down, and, if we were to cement those in, now Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, that is an entirely different process, because then you get into the historic buildings, you get into SIPO, which I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but that adds months onto the process. So for
We wouldn't have it
purposes-
done by December.
Yeah, for purposes of what we're doing, it's not, is it SIPO? Yeah,
State Historical Preservation Office.
there you go, thank you.
It takes at least about 3 months.
Yeah, it would, and the best fix for us in our quest to spend the CDBG money by December is just to go around it. But there's also another part on Cozy Corners
Right, I
side.
was just gonna
Yes,
say,
yeah,
okay.
but I was told, I didn't hear this from him, but I was told that Ray does use that for stuff. And, it's not really our interest to fill them in at this time, but it just, in order to keep the process going.
No, no, that's fine.
Yeah, but yes, I will contact Mr. Moore. We've been, everything is just coming together all at once, so.
Okay, sure.
And
Question I have is, has your tech been approved for the DDA portion of 11?
We haven't even, I don't even think we've really gotten to Eurotech yet, to be honest with you. I don't know where Randy is on that. I haven't been.
Yeah, we did talk to CDBG and they wanted sort of a plan and a contract, like a project manual, a project book kind of put together so that they could have something for the records and say exactly what they were doing, so.
Your tech is preparing.
And Eurotech I talked to Eurotech earlier today and they said that their price, as long as the scope doesn't change, is still exactly the same.
Are they preparing that for CDBG?
We can prepare that for you if we have to.
Yeah, that's a totally separate project. It looks, it still looks like we're still on target to be getting everything done before Halloween. So everything should be done in October is the plan.
Late October. Yeah.
Hopefully we're not, adding on to it. I talked to Andy about getting resident letters out. Business, I know that Larry's that goes in front of his building, we can't just replace all the sidewalk in front of his building and put him on business for a week. So we've got some businesses that we gotta make sure have ins and outs while we're doing this. And, there's still, work to be done on our end, but as long as the bids get out, I think, and I asked Andy to please make sure to have that in the bid process, because we don't want to put anybody out of business for a week. So,
any other questions? Any other liaison reports?
Madam President, I had this thread, there's a letter in here, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be bringing it up, related to Larry's. What am I supposed to do with this? Is this from planning?
Complain?
Planning?
Oh,
Is
planning.
this planning commission stuff?
Yeah, well, everybody kind of got that, so if that letter is, can I speak?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that letter is, as many of you are aware, Larry Schwartz is going to put in and move his facility down across the street from me. So the natural lay of the land is that it flows towards the sewage treatment plant, or basically towards the creek. So what this is Scott, correct me if I got this right, This is for his retention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's gonna have a retention pond, but the retention pond has an outlet.
Mhm.
So a series of outlets. So it's to let the water run out of his retention at a slow rate of speed, rather than having all the rainwater run off at the same time, during a heavy rain. So he would retain the water and slowly release it. So it's going to be released in the same spot that it is now. It's just that to do this, we'd like to have permission from the village that we could do this. So instead of what it is today is a natural runoff, this will be a man-made runoff. So that's the only difference.
Well, I think the one issue was, I think Scott was going to review some plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think based on the plans, you were going to, I thought that our discussion with Michelle was you were going to write a letter recommending, and then the village would take action on that to approve. Right. That's,
So we
okay.
did
That was
that
my
in
understanding of how it was going to go forward, but I don't think you had seen the plan, Scott, so that was kind of...
So what this is, and I presented that before we do all this.
Right.
So now this one is just a FYI, so the next council meeting.
Right.
So we'll already have seen it next week at our planning commission meeting. So we'll probably act on this contingent on your approval. So the next following week.
Yeah, as long as all the issues are addressed, we'll recommend approval.
Perfect. So we'll put that on. Yeah, we'll put it on. Are there any other liaison reports? Hearing none. Under consent agenda, we have the approval of the regular council meeting minutes of August 13th, 2012, and payment of bills. Is there any additions, deletions, or is there a motion at this time?
So moved.
As presented, Mr.
As
Audi?
presented.
Okay, motion by Mr. Audi, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Wolock. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Old business, Spencer Street update. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none. Mr. Ballard, this is your agenda item.
Thank you. The drainage issue is being negotiated with the contractor at this time, and they estimate to start the final punch list next week. So we should have a completion anytime now. The downtown, I'm going to go on not only with Spencer Street, but downtown sidewalks. Our engineer has spoken with Eurotech, and as he stated, the numbers have not changed from the original cost estimate, which is $3,750 to conduct the Main Street concrete lifting for $3,750. The engineer is working with CDBG and CDBG coordinator to prepare necessary documents to get so we can spend our CDBG money instead of our sidewalk money. DDA sidewalk removal and replacement, engineers working to finalize the bid documents per CDBG coordinator's request. And the portions of the West Main and Spencer Street will be moved from the original estimate, and First Street sidewalk was added to the original estimate for revised bid documents. MDOT Bridge Quality Control meeting was held last week or so ago. Thursday. The MDOT representative conducted the quality control analysis of our previously inspected bridges and the village records. Overall, the village was found in compliance and had only 2 minor filing items fixed. 1 item has been fixed and 1 more will be corrected later this week. 2015 bridge application update. The engineer received word from MDOT Bridge Administrator that the application has been reviewed and that all application materials are acceptable. The Metro Region Bridge meeting will be on October the 15th to select bridge projects for 2015 fiscal year. And the Metro Bridge Region has 30 bridges, 30 bridge applications totaling $22.4 million. The Metro Region bridge funding is estimated at about $6.6 million. So that's where we stand. It all depends on how our bridges are at the present time and how they inspect it out. And we have lowered the rating, the weight rating on the bridges already. So hopefully we'll get some money from you for this.
Perfect. And you have a highlight page that you can give Michelle for the minutes?
I sure have.
That'd be
right
great.
here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Baylor? Hearing none, we're moving on to new business. Building inspector request for licensing and registration reimbursement. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Yes, Mr. Lemieux.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the council. Every 3 years, my license, through the license and registration, state of Michigan, I have to renew it. I did renew it, I sent it a check about 3 weeks ago, and you did get a renewed copy. I am asking the council if they would split that cost with me. It was $225. I'm asking for half of the $225, $112.50. I believe 3 years ago, council did reimburse the entire amount, but understanding it's a tough time, I'm only asking for half. Every 3 years, I pay for my own continued net credits, which amount to about $600, plus my fuel going out of class. And I'm just asking this half amount request from council. Request council to approve half of this if they would. Any questions?
Yes, you inspect for Berlin Township, Ray Township, and our village, right, the three?
I do Ray Township.
How about Berlin, it's on here?
I haven't filled it in 3 years. When I worked for Macomb, they picked up all that cost over the last 15 years, and since then, I have not been able, I have not worked for them, so therefore I absorbed that whole cost myself.
In other words, if they would call you, you wouldn't report to them?
What, you mean Macomb or Berlin?
Berlin.
Berlin, I would, yeah, if they did call me, but I haven't worked for them in about 3 years. Ray, I probably did $700 or $800 worth of work for them this year for inspections.
Jeff? I just have a question. Aren't everyone that works for the village, if they're not an employee, an independent contractor? And wouldn't this violate IRS rules if we paid expenses for an independent contractor? It would violate that relationship?
Yeah, that's a pretty technical question. The IRS guidelines on independent contractors. I'd hate to give you an off the cuff opinion because it's fairly complicated. But I mean, I think historically, I'm not sure we've treated our inspectors as independent contractors. I think they've been more of a contractual employee, but I can look into it. It's a fairly complicated area. You gotta kind of look at the regs and figure it out.
Jeff, I did talk with the auditors regarding this. I felt obligated that, this is something that's gonna run by my desk. And we've touched on this several times over the years. And they said that the inspectors are independent contractors and not employees by any means, and that we should not be paying for their costs to do their business. So he said it's not against the law to do it. You could pay them in addition to their remittance. But he said at some point you may have to justify that to taxpayers why you're doing it. So he said it's up to the council. There are no specific IRS guidelines, but there are some gray areas in the 1099 specific. He said that he would not be comfortable with, and he reminded me that they did not like it when we paid it 3 years ago under a previous administration, that it was recommended at that time by the auditors not to pay it, and we had a recommendation by a previous president that said, made a recommendation that we should. So if we were to do it again, I'm sure they wouldn't like it again. They're not going to tell you that you did something against the law, but it's in a gray area that they are not comfortable with.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Lee.
Clearly, I understand I'm not an employee of the council. I understand I'm a 1099, as Mr. Roddy pointed out. It has been pointed out over the years. That's not even a concern. It's just a request because everyone's tight. I've had to pay the $700 for my training over the last 3 years. I'm just asking for a little bit of help. If council decides not to, that's your decision. I'm just asking that you help me out. Because I've called in for doing code enforcement and inspections, and I know I'm paid for those. But it's kind of, one could argue that it's more of like an employee-employer relationship. But in any event, it's your decision.
Any other council input?
I don't mind so much paying it, I just don't want to get in trouble with the audit, you know, I mean, you're not asking for an extremely high amount of money, you know, it's fairly small, I just don't want to get in trouble. We're gonna get a tip on our thing, that's my concern. And I know he does a great job, and he does a lot for us as a village. I mean, for this, it's a small dollar amount.
Because it's once every 3 years, right? So it's about
Yes.
$40 a year.
Yeah, to me, it's not the money, it's can we do it? Because, you know, that's a big, you know, the IRS has been clamping down lately, I know, in insurance. That's one of the things we've dealt with, where there's been a lot of companies that have been fined for improperly 1099 people. And there's a control relationship. Maybe we need to review that down the road too.
Any other council input?
That would be my only concern as the auditor's recommendation, and I think that's very pertinent. With fact that it is a small amount, and I have no question with Dennis's request, and so it's just the legalities.
Any other council input?
What did the auditor say specifically that we shouldn't do it?
They wouldn't recommend that you do, that you shouldn't. They're not telling you that you cannot, but he said it would be their recommendation that you should not. But he was careful with what words he used.
It's more like a benefit
Yeah.
versus a straight contractual relationship because you're paying them for their services.
Right.
An employee, you would do that for them, like pursuant to our DPW employees, we pay them for their licensure. But they're an employee, and this is, as Harry said, you're adding on almost like a benefit payment on top of what's supposed to be purely contractual for service.
Right.
Now, when he renews, we could just increase the fees by $5 if we wanted to. We could just do that. Payment schedule. You just can't do it on this side. You would have to do it on the other side to compensate.
The way I understand it here, most, and I also agree, at least the majority of us are not opposed to reimbursing him, but we really don't want to go against the auditors, against their recommendation. On top of that, we have
Just
used...
this method may not be the means to do it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because we've also told other organizations here about doing things that, you know, about the auditors writing us up for not handling funds correctly, so I don't want to put us in a position not handling our funds properly, but I would like to find a way to do this. That would be, you know, so you might ask them if there would be a way to do this that would be appropriate.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Clearly, I don't want council to get in trouble. If it's an issue that, I'll withdraw the request.
We know that, Dennis.
But I'm just telling you, there's concern about
You do a
payment.
valuable job. I think most of us appreciate the job that
Thank
you
you.
do.
But, you know, the training is going up every year, as you know. You have to drive down once a month, take the training, earn that, pay the fees, come back with it. I'm just trying to find a way to reimburse it. And Mr. Audi had suggested it, and it's already been thought about before, about raising fees. We're trying to keep those reasonable. Township gets reimbursed for theirs, training and you know, re-registration. It's not an issue. I know he's an employee, but...
Could you check again with the auditor?
do that?
And just get back to us.
If you don't mind me adding, can you also bring back what we currently pay Mr. Lemieux and maybe a possible increase? Or when do we do the increase for the first year?
At budget
First
time,
year?
no, not at first time, at budget.
Budget time.
When we set his fees, he's currently paid $225 right now. So,
I mean, I would like to see that. I mean, I would like to reimburse somebody for the cost.
But I will check, see how long it's been, because I think it's been a while since we increased your fee.
Maybe that's the way, if
That could be.
Mr. Lemieux has all these additional costs to go to training, we don't want to be burdensome for him because he is doing us a service.
Right.
It might be better to increase it by, say, $5 or whatever, you know, you can equate.
Thank you.
So, all right, so we'll move that to the next meeting. Will you have it ready by the next meeting? Jen? Okay, so move that to an upcoming agenda item. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item. It is the Morrison Street mortgage update. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none? Treasurer Dara, this is your agenda item.
As you know, we've been discussing it in the meetings since late June, early July, to move it from Fifth Third Bank to refinance it through K-Bank. I have a locked offer now at 3%. There's been a number of things that they require to have in their possession before they could draft any closing documents. Our financial reports, the state audit, the attorney's opinion. Jeff has got that all in. I've gotten the financial documents and everything. They need some minutes, which is the reason I drafted that quick resolution for you, because the minutes that we do have aren't specific to what they're asking for. The resolution is what they asked for, that council is aware that we're changing it from Fifth Third Bank to CSB Bank, and that it meets your approval, and that you're authorizing me, or if you want to change it to somebody else, to sign the closing documents. They would like to close on Thursday. They called me today and said that they would like to tentatively close on Thursday, providing that I can get these documents together and a written closing statement for the payoff from from Fifth Third Bank.
When did we make this motion?
Not a motion. We did talk about it. That's why the minutes don't exactly reflect what they need on writing. So that's why I quickly did a resolution that we can give to them that simply says that council is aware. They know that it's going from Fifth Third Bank to CSB Bank, and that you're authorizing someone to sign.
So they need to read this after resolve, whoever it is that wants to make that motion.
If we want to make a motion.
So moved.
Well, here, you need
You want me to
to
read it? Oh.
It's right here.
They read it too.
This is to certify that, or be resolved that the council so directs the treasurer to investigate and proceed with the option of refinancing the Morrison Street property through CSB Bank in the approximate amount of $62,000 and closing costs.
Motion by Mr. Audi is
Further resolved.
Further resolved that the treasurer has the authority to sign any and all documents necessary to complete the transaction and closing process on behalf of the village of Armada.
motion by Mr. Audi. Is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Ballard. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Audi?
Yes.
Ballard?
Yes.
Wolock?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Hooper?
Yes.
Cronin?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next agenda item is the F-800 truck bid. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, this is DPW Supervisor Ed Saratowski's agenda item. He is not here. So as everyone has read, he has received a bid of $4,000 for the old dump truck that is attached from Lee Wholesale Supply. From what I understand, it is the only bid that he did receive on the truck. Are there any questions, concerns, or there is a motion?
Madam President, real quick, what did we
Yes.
budget for this, or?
I don't remember.
Treasurer.
Joe, do you remember what we budgeted for the sale of this?
I don't know that we put the sale of the dump truck in the budget.
We had the sale of the DPW van.
The van.
Actually, maybe it was 2 years ago. DPW van's on our budget for 1,500. I shouldn't have said that that loud, should I? Might sway somebody, but I don't see the dump truck on.
Yeah, I didn't think we put the dump truck in.
Good, so that's extra money.
Okay, any other questions? Everyone,
Jeff has prepared bill of sale too, which is attached in there, just for us to have to.
Do we have to authorize somebody to sign that? In the motion?
You can add that, yeah, that's fine.
Who's our authorized signer?
We typically use the clerk and the president.
I'll make it resolved to accept the bid of $4,000 from Lee Wholesale Supply for the Ford F-800 truck and authorize the clerk to sign on the village's behalf.
motion by Mr. Stewart, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Clark, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion?
We did find the title too.
Yes.
We got the title.
Is this roll call? Okay.
We're taking
All those in
the
favor
next
signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay.
one. Stewart.
Motion carried, Stewart and Clark. Thank you. Next agenda item is the trailhead update. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Yes, Mr. Galecki.
So you have in front of you an agreement, actually you might have two agreements. One was passed by the Trail Commission last week, and another one, do you have two?
No, we only
Just
have the
one,
one.
the new updated one,
So do you have the one that's,
without the drainage.
so what do they got?
I mean, okay, this is, the Trail Commission met last Thursday. Mr. Galecki was able to attend the meeting, and they have approved a lease agreement. And what's reflected on the agreement in your package is two changes that Mr. Galecki would like to be changed. And those you can see in paragraph 6 and in paragraph 10. He would like to delete that language. And to give you a little background, I spoke subsequently to Jill Smith, who is the legal counsel for the Trail Commission. They are agreeable to the village's proposed amendment on 10 regarding signage. So the village would be permitted to put on its plans and construct some directional signage within the leased property. The reason they don't want advertising is, they want to exert strong control because, they want to control the advertising on the trail, which runs, I believe, from Shelby Township all the way to Richmond. So they just don't want to get into the kind of the situation where they allow the village to do commercial advertising. But directional signage to downtown businesses, anything like that would be permissible as long as Mr. Galecki shows it and they sign off on it. So they compromised on that. Let me give you a little background on the drainage issue. They have been in other locations having drainage problems. They've had some actual washouts on the trail. So they're very sensitive to drainage issues. Now, Ben has spoken with the Department of Roads, and I guess based on the feedback you got, they do not feel that there is a drainage problem by putting down a crushed concrete parking lot. Nonetheless, because of this issue at other locations, they are asking that in the plan that Ben would submit, that he shows, or to the satisfaction of the Department of Roads, what type of drainage or how it would flow. So I don't know if Scott could provide any guidance. They're thinking it might be nothing more than a swale. They just don't want to contractually say that ignore the drainage completely because of this situation. So they want to keep in the one sentence that is stricken on here. I know Ben feels strongly, I guess, it's a kind of a little bit of a question of trust that, if we got into this situation or dispute over drainage. But as of right now, and again, Ben, I don't know if I had a chance to talk to you directly on this issue, they just want to make sure that when these plans come in, if there's any drainage issues, that they're addressed on the plans. I think Ben feels fairly confident that there's not going to be, but they're not willing to just take it completely out of the lease. So we have two options. One option is to accept the lease agreement as presented by them. I think Ben feels strongly that the drainage should come out. That may be a deal breaker based on the feedback I got. And we could approve it without the drainage requirement, but then, like I said, the chance of this project going through are probably compromised a little bit. I don't mean to put Scott on the spot, but regardless, we have to have some type of drawing. They're not looking for, I don't think, any elevations to be shot or hydraulic studies. They just want to see a plan, what's going to go in there, amenities, signage, and as long as the Department of Roads signs off on that, I think Ben's good to go. But I know, Ben, I'll turn it, I guess, back to you with the President's blessing, but I know you have some concerns.
Well, the drawing, they said that we could just have a conceptual drawing. So it doesn't have to be anything with topables or anything like that, and it's just a, so, and I was gonna ask Scott if he could help me out with that drawing, because my guy fell through. But the drainage issue is not just a blip. The drainage issue is, it may be on the county's end that it's a deal breaker, but on my end, it's a deal breaker. I don't have the, what we would have to do is, if you kind of go to that area and look to the east, the sewage treatment plant lawn is actually higher than the parking area. So we'd have to cut all the way through, or a good section of the sewage treatment lawn, either putting in a drainage pipe or putting in a swale or a ditch, but whatever it is, it would be taking up somewhere between 150 and so foot of that lawn, digging it out, blending it back, and reseeding it, and I don't have it. If the village wanted to do that, then the village could do it, but as far as me taking that one on, I can't. So you can do it anything you want with the agreement, but that's my stance. So the drainage on both ends may be a deal breaker.
So everyone has the agreement there. This is what Ben and Jeff feel comfortable with us passing.
Not the one that you've got, the one that,
This one with the white.
well, I don't know exactly what you've got, but the one that deletes the drainage.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, it's off of there.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the one that Ben feels comfortable if we pass, he can take to the county. And then it's up to the county, whether they want to go ahead and go for it, go ahead and take it as it is, as we passed it. If not, if they're gonna force the drainage thing, my personal feeling is we don't have the money for that.
No.
So,
But real quickly, to the east, you're standing on the proposed parking lot.
Yeah.
Crushed gravel. You look to the west.
Correct.
You're seeing that grass right there, we don't own it.
Understood, it's a tree.
That's all there.
It doesn't matter, it's still,
Well, you said the sewer plant.
you cut the grass.
No, we don't cut, I don't think we cut that
Sure you
anymore.
do, it's inside your
Yeah,
fence.
it is.
Oh, it is in the fence?
it
Yeah.
is, yes.
Oh, okay.
So,
And it's quite.
and I,
high.
and
Okay.
just, and as far as a cost to the village, if you use your DPW, because I don't know what it costs, but, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But for me, it'd be a big deal. And as Mr. Bohorsky stated, they did have a meeting with 3 guys from the Department of Roads. That agreement, at that point in time, we agreed that, or the Department of Road guys said, no, you don't need any drainage. So they've reverted back to now saying that we needed drainage.
Because someone else was at
Well,
the meeting.
Because of somebody else.
Right, but I do think what they're trying to say though, Ben, is, they're not saying that they just want to make sure that any activity that would be on the leased premises, they don't want that to cause a drainage problem. So I'm a little confused when it sounded like you said, I'd have to go on the
That's what they
sewer.
want. I mean, drainage is drainage,
I know, but I don't understand how we could go on to other property.
It's not, it's a trail property. So it's within the village sewage treatment plant fence, but it's actually trail property.
Right, but
It's right here. Right along there.
We don't own that property.
No, but we cut the grass and take care of
That's
it.
our
Yeah, and it's inside your fence.
Right. So we would have to go all the way over here, run something from here, all the way over there.
No, that's not true.
Right.
It's only about a third or a half away.
So you're only
It's
saying
not
the
a-
elevated
after
portion
you
of
after you
the
get that
Trails
berm,
over
after you get that
Right.
berm, it goes, it tapers down.
We should
So
So you don't have to go that whole distance.
Put a seepage tile in, where would it drain to?
Drain to the creek.
There's a hole,
So
there's
you
a
go
main,
that
a pipe all the way down by the creek. It actually, the sewer plant property where the road is, actually cuts right through the fence and drains into the
Drains
creek.
into
And that's what's back, when the creek gets high, it flooded that old plant because there's a hole, or pipe.
Well, evidently,
So there's,
Other side.
sorry,
no, you go.
so there is a natural flow already through the driveway into the trail park, the trail property.
Well, maybe if we can show them that, then that would suffice.
On their drawings, they're showing you putting drainage in.
Understood, until now, I don't know that drainage exists. And I don't even know where that
That's
is.
what it says.
No, they're not saying that, all they're saying is, provide us with a drawing of what you're gonna do. And in that drawing, show us that you're not gonna flood out adjoining parcels. That's what they're looking for.
So if there is a drain there now that could effectively eliminate that process, we may not have to do anything? Is that
If
what
there's
we're
a drain there currently.
saying? Okay.
When they put that trail in and then all that asphalt, they didn't worry about anybody getting any drainage then. Now they're worried about the parking lot.
That's the thing, Dave. It's so frustrating to deal with these guys. They don't want anything to do with Armada. Shelby, the guy from Shelby basically almost came out and said that at the last meeting. I walked out on the last meeting.
Take the trail out if you don't want anything to do with that.
Well,
Dave Conan?
I mean, they should get trailhead like
you
that.
know,
No, I know, but
it-
let's not talk Easton.
it's a win-win for the trail commission, it's a win-win for the village, and I, quite frankly, have been going to meetings for a year, and I'm tired of getting stonewalled, so.
Right.
It's just, I mean,
And-
we're
and this
getting
is
to, we're getting to the end, but then they threw up a whole bunch of roadblocks at the last meeting, and I'm surprised that they passed.
It depends on who's at the meeting, it's based on our conversation, depends on who's at the meeting, and every meeting's a little different. So at least we're going to them with an earnest effort, saying this is what we understand, this is what we're willing to do, and it gives Ben a little more ammunition, saying I have council behind me and this is what we're willing to do, if council so chooses.
Madam President?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to resolve to approve the lease agreement between the Macomb Orchard Trail Commission and the Village of Armada as amended, and authorize the president of the clerk to sign it on behalf of the village.
You would say as amended with your.
As amended.
Does that mean?
Yeah, so those,
Okay,
the two
perfect.
changes, those two changes to 6 and 10.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Ballard, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Conan, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried, thank you. Next agenda item is the S2 grant, are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, trustee Stewart, this is your agenda item.
As you can see in the summary, Jeff reviewed our motion at the meeting 2 weeks ago. He'd like to make a little change to it. It's the same thing we already did. I'm not gonna go over it again unless you want to. So I'm just gonna get right to it. Resolve to amend the S2 grant resolution adopted at the 7/9/12 RCM to increase the total S2 grant cost to $260,493 to reflect 107 manholes and 26,110 linear feet of sanitary sewer.
Motion by Mr. Stewart, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Ballard.
Is that date right?
I don't know, you gave it to
No.
me.
I think I gave,
It
it
was
was
the last
made at the
meeting.
last meeting, that's supposed to be 8/13.
8/13/12.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry
sorry,
about that.
that's
That might be
totally
my
my
fault.
fault.
Well,
now.
wait a second. Originally, we adopted the motion.
On
And then we had
7/9.
to come back and increase it because of the scope change.
The 8/13 one is the one we just.
Which one are we referencing?
Yeah,
The
I guess,
8/13,
yeah,
12.
the original motion was made on 7, I think this is what you and I talked about, on July 9th.
Because it was to increase it, which was our last one.
Oh, but
The last
no,
one
it
was
should be
increased.
7/9,
I
you're
think
right.
it should be.
It should be 7/9 because you were,
That's the original?
yeah, that's the original. Yeah, I think
think we talked
that's
about
right,
it.
yeah, I think we talked about it now
I
that we're
didn't talk
talking
about
about
it.
it again.
Okay.
You said bold.
Okay, motion by Mr. Stewart, second by Mr. Ballard. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Stirrit?
Yes.
Ballard?
Yes.
Body?
Yes.
Conan?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Bullock? Park?
Yes.
Motion passes. Upcoming agenda items, we have the building inspector request for licensing and registration. We have the repair replacement to village sidewalks, and we have Larry's Automotive. Are there any other upcoming agenda items we need to know about? Any upcoming agenda items? Hearing none. Any other citizen comments? Any citizen comments? Hearing none. Any council comments?
Yes, there is a DDA meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Tuesday here. Is that posted?
Yes, Robin came and posted it tonight.
And what is on that agenda?
I didn't see on her agenda, I just assumed it was the same as the last agenda, which was the payment of the bond and Armada getting.
They don't
Okay.
always post their agenda, they post the meeting.
I thought they had, they don't. Well, again, if you have any questions concerning Armageddon or the paying of the bond, I would suggest the council members show up at 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay. Any other council comments? Hearing none. Community events. So everyone mark their calendars. September 15th at 1 o'clock at the Armada Township Park. We have our Armada Fire Department battling against our Armada Police Department in a baseball game, softball game. $1 minimum donation to ASAP per person. We'll have concessions there. Should be a good time. Last year, the fire department smoked the police department, and they're out for vengeance this year. So
It was an awesome game last year.
it was. And we also had the Junior Tigers cheerleaders, and we also had the ASAP cheerleaders battling it out too. So it should be quite fun.
What time was that?
1 p.m. Saturday, September 15th at the Armada Township Park, baseball park. Are there any other community events? We don't have a closed session tonight. The time is now, what time is it? Josh, it's on
53?
7:53.
7:53. Is there a motion at this time to adjourn?
Feels like it.
Motion by Mr. Conan, support by Mr. Wolak. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.